But Romain Grosjean once again has been eliminated in Q1. And Jolyon Palmer, amazingly, he was the quickest in practice, but he was the slowest here in Q3. And also, actually, whoa, Sebastian Vettel ended up beating Lewis Hamilton to take pole position for the Russian Grand Prix. Grosjean is already up into, he's going through the middle of some cars there, Grosjean is already up into 11th place. Brilliant. Van Dorn. Stoffel Van Dorn has crashed. I mean, this is quite strange. Oh, someone else has crashed. Massa. Why do I bother? Magnussen, he's lost 9.5 seconds in the pits and he's got no ERS. No, someone else has crashed. Valtteri Bottas. Bottas, I talked about him, about how he's underperformed compared to Hamilton. That's not going to help. Okay, looky here. Grosjean, he's in 9th. He's ahead of Verstappen because Verstappen is coming to the pits for the second time to fit on some soft tyres. Romain Grosjean, though, I think he's just about, he's going to cross the line in 9th place. Pretty dismal race for us, to be honest. But look, Sebastian Vettel won the Russian Grand Prix. Sergio Perez, I don't know how he did it. He did a one-stop strategy, much like us. And Sergio Perez, he's taken 2nd. And Daniel Ricciardo's taken 3rd. And Fernando Alonso once again proving that Q3, getting into Q3 isn't particularly great, as he didn't make it into Q3 and he finished in 4th. Right then guys, it's PSL here, and I'm here for the 5th episode in my equal Formula 1 Cars Championship here on Motorsport Manager. Now last time out we had the Russian Grand Prix, the Black Sea Grand Prix, and it wasn't exactly the most interesting race in the world, to be honest, so we won't go on about it. This time we got the Portuguese Grand Prix, the Tondela Grand Prix. And Tondela, when I've played this game in the past on different game saves, Tondela is one of my favourite tracks in this game because I seem to do reasonably well around it. But we'll see how it goes in this series, because to be honest, well, this series hasn't gone massively well. But then again, that is because, well, it's because, I mean, it's the equal Formula 1 Cars Championship, except for the fact that we have worse tyre wear, so who knows. And to be fair, it says on this track, it says the tyre wear is high, so yeah, things might not go brilliantly for us, but we'll have to wait and see. So then one change I'm going to make to this series is the career session length. I'm going to set it from medium to short. Partly because it might spice up the championship, I don't know. But basically what that does is that means that the laps per race are decreased. However, also the tyre life is also reduced in accordance. So, for example, I think this race coming up, it's meant to be 20 odd something laps and the soft tyres can normally last 6 to 8 laps, but because the session has gone from medium length to short length, I think the soft tyres will now only do 4 to 6 laps, but the race is now only, I think, 17 laps long. So, hopefully with the shorter races, well, two things. One, it might spice up the championship, who knows, and secondly, I might see if, in a couple of episodes' time, I might see if I can have 2 races in episodes, just to try and speed this series along. So then here we are on the driver's scouting screen. Now I'm going to scout Ericsson, and it will start with Kimi Räikkönen. Now this is something I've been doing off screen just to find out the pecking order of all the drivers in this mod, because I'm sure, as I've said before, we all know which drivers are good and which ones aren't, but I wanted to find out their exact ratings in the game. And there you go, Lewis Hamilton, he's pretty much a 5-star driver. Then you got Ricciardo. Alonso's just below Ricciardo. Slightly odd, but then again, to be fair, I think it's because McLaren, I mean, just to make this mod accurate to real life, McLaren have to be slow. So if you made Alonso, I was going to say if you made Alonso ridiculously good, then McLaren would be unrealistically quick. But, I mean, Alonso's still the 3rd quickest driver that I've scouted. He's miles ahead of Bottas. Jenson Button, I semi-accidentally scouted. I just clicked Jenson Button, forgetting that he doesn't race in Formula 1 anymore, but Button's got quite a good rating. He's ahead of Van Dorn, and honestly, if I was Eric Boulier, who's the team principal in this mod, if I was Eric Boulier, what I would do is I would swap Van Dorn and Button around, because Jenson Button has got a higher driver rating than Van Dorn. That's what I would do, but well, I don't know. I don't know, but that is what I would do. And then you got Ocon and Stroll, who are both only 3-star drivers, and Alfonso Celis, who I accidentally scouted. And unsurprisingly, considering he's Force India's test driver, he is the worst driver in Formula 1 of the ones I've currently scouted. But Jolyon Palmer's still got a day left till he finds out his ratings, so who knows, but I imagine he'll be with Ocon and Stroll right towards the bottom. Save for Ericsson, Raikkonen will probably be with Bottas, I'd imagine, but well, we'll have to wait and see, and I'll update you on these ratings as I scout more drivers. Just before we head towards Portugal, Tondela, I've had a look at our previous best results. Now, our previous best results in the race have been 9th, 8th and 13th, going backwards. Our best results in qualifying for the past 3 races have all been 9th, which isn't too surprising because normally what happens is one of our drivers just about scrapes into Q3, and then there'll be one driver who's run out of soft tyres or run out of brand new soft tyres at the very least, and then they've had it, so we take 9th, second to last in Q3 by default if anything else. We'll see if that happens this time. It's meant to be an entirely dry race weekend, so I'm not expecting any major shocks, but yes, let's head into the 5th race of the season, Portugal, Tondela. Right then, so here are the practice results. Hamilton from Bottas from Palmer. Don't ask me how Jolyon Palmer is in 3rd, and I know it's practice, and practice is utterly meaningless and irrelevant and doesn't stand for anything, but the very fact that Jolyon Palmer is in 3rd, even in practice, is still an achievement and a shock. I mean, Hulkenberg's in 5th, but still Palmer beat Hulkenberg by 0.2 of a second. That's what we're going to have to do at the end of this episode, is find out Palmer's rating, because I think, yeah, I am scouting him. And Palmer, I just don't understand Palmer. I don't think he scored that many points, but in practice and qualifying, he does really well. There's even been moments in races where he's briefly held the fastest lap. Anyway, it's Ricciardo, Hulkenberg, Vettel, Kvyat, Van Dorn, Sainz, and Raikkonen. In fact, Raikkonen on the hards was quicker than Grosjean was on the softs. To be fair, I don't think they were brand new soft tyres at the time. I don't think so. And Williams are at the back. Now that the session length is short as opposed to medium, the soft tyres are going to wear out even quicker. So this could be fun. We'll have to see how this goes. Setups are pretty much perfect for both of our guys. So yep, let's simulate the session. So, oh no, it's going a little bit too quickly. Let's slow that down. So, none of our guys have set laps yet, but it doesn't really matter because obviously the track grip will increase over time. Vettel is the fastest at the moment, even Alonso's 0.2 off. And both of our guys, it looks like at the moment, are going to be eliminated in Q1. That's despite the fact we got a level 3 qualifying trim and an experience on the soft tyres, and our setups are 98 and 99% optimised. But despite that, we've qualified in 2nd to last and 3rd to last. I mean, to be fair, I'm not a massive fan of getting into Q3 in this game with this mod, certainly. I don't really like getting into Q3, but I'd at least like to get into Q2, but no, we're not going to. Right, so we'll just have to simulate the rest of the sessions. Oh, what was that? Was that a thunderstorm briefly? Oh, changeable conditions here in qualifying. Okay, well that could spice it up. So the track's drying out and the people on laps are, well, look at that. Hamilton and Perez are way ahead of everyone else. Look at that. Verline's 8 seconds down. People going out on soft tyres now. Is it going to start raining once again? It will do come the end, actually. Okay, but Perez, it looks like it's the fastest at the moment. He was 9 seconds ahead of Hamilton there very briefly. But look who's been knocked out. Verline, and Verline has been the surprise of the season so far. He was 6 seconds down on Perez, and he also qualified on the soft tyres. But look, Ricciardo, Raikkonen, Alonso and Verstappen, all very, very good drivers in top teams, have been knocked out in Q2 because they didn't set a lap on the soft tyres. I mean, Ricciardo, the fastest of that bunch, he's 14 seconds down on Perez. Well, I really wish I did get into Q2 now, because that was an exciting session and our guys could so easily have squeezed into Q3. Although, to be fair, I mean, the soft tyres, they've got no life left now, so I don't know. I imagine the people who've made it into Q3, they'll probably have to pit on like the second or third lap in the race, but we could have got a decent qualifying position at least, but oh well. Anyway, let's head on into the final session. Right, so Vettel was the fastest in Q1, Perez was the fastest in that completely bonkers Q2 qualifying session. So, how's it all going to play out here? And, oh, it's changeable conditions once again. It's getting wetter and wetter and wetter, but it's going to start drying out from here on in. Right. Yeah, people out on intermediates and wet tyres, and Force India's, they're out on the intermediates. That could do well for them. In fact, Ocon is the fastest at the moment. 2.2 seconds ahead of Stroll in second. Hamilton is in third, but we've got people going out on the mediums. Have they ran out of soft tyres already? It seems like it. So we've got some out on intermediates, some out on mediums. Perez is the fastest. No, it's Felipe Massa. Look at that. The top two rows of the starting grid have been taken by Williams and Force India. That's brilliant stuff. I love that. Williams and Force India, the sort of teams that normally in Formula 1 battle for 4th place in the Constructors' Championship. Force India, massive overachievers in Formula 1. Such a brilliant team. But instead of battling for 4th in the Constructors' Championship, much like at the third race of the season, except in the third race of the season it was just Massa and Ocon who were battling for the race lead. Well, here it's going to be Massa, Perez, Stroll and Ocon, all of Williams and all of Force India battling for the race lead. Because Lewis Hamilton, he didn't set a lap on dry tyres stupidly. He was 7 seconds behind Massa. But then again, look at that. Valtteri Bottas was 5 seconds behind his teammate on the same tyres. Sainz is in 7th. He's beaten Vettel. He's beaten Van Dorn. Marcus Ericsson, don't know how. He set a lap on the soft tyres, so theoretically should have been at least contending for the full pole position, but he was the slowest. So I can only assume he set his soft tyre lap when the track was soaking wet. So then we're going to be playing the long game here. We're going to start on the hard tyres. Now, it's a 17 lap race, and it says the hard tyres can last between 8 and 10 laps. Again, ambitious. This game is normally quite ambitious with the tyres, with the tyre life, especially when you've got a car like ours which has poor tyre wear. But if we can pull off a one stop, well, I mean, even if we're at the lower end of those expectations, 8 laps, we should just about, well, we'll be 1 lap short, to be honest. But if we can do 8.5 laps, of course you have to do an entire lap, but if we can do effectively 8.5 laps on our tyres, so 9 laps on our hard tyres, then we could do a 1 stop, and of course the people in Q3 will have to do a 2 stop. Yes. And also there could be some people starting on mediums. I don't know, to be honest. We'll just have to see what tyres everybody's starting on. So, yeah, look at that. Massa, Perez, Stroll. Yeah, look at that. That's a perfect example. If you look at Massa and Stroll, Massa, I mean, it probably doesn't matter now because we got the short session length. So the difference in tyre life remaining probably isn't a lap. In fact, it almost certainly isn't a lap's worth. But that shows that, of course, different teams have different tyre wears. But actually, you can also see it with Perez and Ocon as well. That each driver has a smoothness rating. And as you can see, Massa and Perez's smoothness rating is higher than Stroll's and Ocon's because, well, they've got more of their tyres left. And never to mind the fact that they were quicker. Well, I say quicker, but qualifying was mad anyway. And Hamilton, Bottas, so it's an all Mercedes third row. Right then, so here we go. Grosjean in 19th, Magnussen in 18th, and the Portuguese Grand Prix is underway. Grosjean already down into last place. In fact, though, there's some people getting held up by slow runners in front. And in fact, Magnussen who's been held up because our guys are now in last and second to last. Fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. Right, and that was something weird that Grosjean said a second ago. Right, he's just effectively confirmed something which I've always had a doubt on in this game. He said the tyres are so cold that they're actually hurting tyre wear. Now, I've seen that, I've read that in the game before, that if the tyres are too cold, they actually wear out faster. But if we push on the tyres to increase the tyre temperature, then they'll wear out faster because we're pushing on them. So we're literally in a catch-22, where we either push to get the tyres to a better temperature, and then they'll wear out quicker, or we don't push on them, and then they wear out quickly. So we literally cannot do right in this situation. We're just pushing the tyres because, at least if we're pushing on the tyres, at least if they do wear out quicker, at least we're actually getting extra pace from it, if nothing else. But, well, I think our hopes of a one-stop have gone away, because look at Ocon, Verstappen, Hulkenberg, they've all got way more life left on their tyres, so I don't think we can possibly do a one-stop anymore. Thankfully, Magnussen's in 12th, Grosjean I've just given up on, to be honest, because he's still in 18th. Magnussen has done brilliantly well, to be honest. He's in 12th. He's made up 6 places from his qualifying position. That's better than the position a lap. And in fact, yeah, some people have come into the pits. Sainz, Ericsson, Stroll, Van Dorn. Where's Massa? Massa's in 6th. Perez is now in 6th. Actually, this is effectively, well, potentially the battle for the lead. Well, I mean, we'll have to wait and see whether Perez and Massa rejoin in the race lead, because currently Verline's leading. I don't know if I'm actually currently scouting Verline, but I may as well do, because Verline's just done brilliantly. Verline and Palmer are the 2 drivers who have massively exceeded my expectations and have done brilliantly well. And I guess the 2 drivers who have really underperformed this season have been Valtteri Bottas and Max Verstappen. In fact, Max Verstappen, well, he's in 7th at the moment, fair play to him, but I think he's only scored 1 point this season so far, which, considering how good he is in real life, considering he is the wonder kid, and he's in a Red Bull, and Ricciardo's scored quite a few points, yeah, that's been quite disappointing for Verstappen. So then I've basically admitted defeat. It says that the hard tyres, they can do 8 to 10 laps, they can't. Not on our car anyway. Maybe it's because the tyres were too cold, maybe it's because we were pushing on them, maybe it's because we did both, I don't know. To be honest, whatever we did, whatever the situation, I think we did the worst thing we possibly could have done, which is let the tyres get cold and then push on them, which I think is the worst thing you can possibly do. But anyway, you live and learn. Anyway, I've just written off this race, to be honest. We're going to see if we can do maybe 2 stints on the mediums, maybe the mediums and then the softs. We'll have to wait and see, but anyway, we're going to bring both of our drivers in on the same lap, because, well, Grosjean's miles behind. I think he's, what, 11 seconds behind Magnussen, is it? Yeah, pretty much, 11 seconds behind Magnussen. So, Magnussen's in 8th. He's doing pretty well, but I imagine once he pits, he'll be in. In fact, he could potentially come out in last, apart from his teammate. Could Magnussen? Yeah, I mean, look at Verstappen ahead. Verstappen's still got way more life left in his tyres. Yes, he's in a Red Bull, but still. Anyway, Magnussen, he's coming in 8th, and he'll be coming out in... Oh my god! It's happened again. I swear that happened in the last race, where there's been a mistake in the pits with fitting on new tyres. Well, there you go. There's no point showing you the rest of this race. From my perspective anyway, look, we're sure we were probably going to emerge in last, but we're 10 seconds down because of a pit stop issue with fitting the tyres on. Well, do you know what? It's pointless watching the rest of this race from our perspective. I'm going to watch Sergio Perez, because we're not going to do anything this race. As I've said, this series, it's more of a experiment to find out what happens than me actually trying to win the championship. I mean, to be honest, I wasn't expecting to win the championship, but I was expecting to do a damn sight better than this. I think we're 8th in the team's championship, and there you go. Perez, he's just taken the lead of the race from Kimi Räikkönen. But effectively, Räikkönen wasn't competing for the race. It's actually, well, Felipe Massa is the effective challenger for the race lead, and Massa, he's 4.6 seconds down. So I think Sergio Perez, I think he's going to win this race. He's certainly got quite a massive advantage on Felipe Massa, and he's just at the fastest lap of the race, so there you go. Perez, he's got it sorted. Right then, so Kevin Magnussen, he's in 10th place, however he is going to come into the pits right now. Verstappen set the fastest lap, we're going to come in for some soft tyres. Please don't mess up this pit stop. Thankfully that one went alright. Grosjean was actually held up slightly there. Oh, actually Grosjean's pit stop has now gone wrong. Absolutely fantastic. Well, just kick us while we're down. Anyway, I've got nothing to say. Magnussen isn't in last place anymore. He's in... Well, even if you exclude his teammate, he's in second to last because Magnussen is ahead of Ericsson. And you've got Palmer, who's got some very worn hard tyres. Van Dorn. You've got some people who we could overtake. Ocon is only in 6th, but he has set the fastest lap. I think he took it off of Ericsson. I think Ericsson had the fastest lap, and he set that on the hard tyres. That was a few laps ago. It was quite weird. Anyway, Perez is leading the Grand Prix, only by 3.2 seconds now, but still, he's leading the Grand Prix. Alonso somehow has been able to find his way into 3rd on a one-stop strategy, but, well, his tyres, they're about to hit the 25% mark, which, once they do, even Alonso is going to be slipping down the order rapidly. Vettel's there, Ocon's there, Bottas in 6th. Stroll really hasn't done all that well, because Stroll, I think, qualified in 3rd and he's in 9th. At least Ocon, well, Ocon qualified in 4th, and for the moment he is still in 4th. And our drivers 17th and 20th. What is even the point? From the start, it was a battle between Force India and Williams. Williams, they had the advantage. They qualified 1st and 3rd. Felipe Massa had pole position. Unfortunately, though, he's lost it. He's 4.4 seconds down on Sergio Perez. Perez has done brilliantly. So, in the equal Formula 1 Cars Championship, sure, the qualifying was completely insane, but Perez, he capitalised on that to qualify 2nd and finish 1st, setting the fastest lap of the Grand Prix as he wins the Portuguese Grand Prix. From Felipe Massa in 2nd, Esteban Ocon, right at the end, has just taken 3rd place from Fernando Alonso. So there you go, Perez, Massa, Ocon, Alonso. And Lewis Hamilton, the championship leader, has only scored 1 point. He's all the way down in 10th. And in fact, Lewis Hamilton was leading the Drivers' Championship. It's now Sergio Perez who's leading the Drivers' Championship. 2 points ahead of Vettel, 3 points ahead of Ocon. Why am I not surprised? I think I've said this before, that in real life, if you got all the teams, if you applied a budget cap, I reckon Force India would be out on top. Either Force India or Toro Rosso, because those are the teams which just... they seem to do so well with such a limited budget. The difference is that Toro Rosso, they seem to have... well, Toro Rosso, they do have a degree of corporate funding which Force India don't. They are very much a privateer team, and they just always do so well. It's just a team run by decent people with decent drivers, and it's just a decent team, shown by the fact that Sergio Perez, well, he's leading the Drivers' Championship, Ocon's in 3rd, so I imagine that Force India will be leading the team's championship. Wow, yes, they are leading the team's championship, and by quite some way. They're on 107 points. Ferrari are in 2nd, they're only on 73 points. There's Mercedes, McLaren, Williams, Red Bull, Toro Rosso, Haas. At least we're not last. Thankfully, we are beating Renault. I'm surprised Renault are behind us, to be perfectly honest. And then Sauber, poor Sauber. Even when you give everyone the same cars, they just don't have the chassis, the tyre wear, the drivers really. Although to be fair, Verline's done brilliantly this series, but Ericsson not so much. And Sauber, well, they're still last in the team's championship. Well, great, we're right back to square one we are, because we had a poor finish this race, and because, I can only assume because each of our drivers had a poor pit stop, they had a pit stop error, the relationship with the driver and their race mechanic, well, with Grosjean, it's right back to square one. It's nothing, and Ericsson, no, sorry, not Ericsson's, and Magnussen's relationship with his mechanic isn't all that great either. To be fair, what is... pit stops is 13. I don't know what affects the likelihood... yeah, I don't know what affects the likelihood of mistakes, but if you look, I mean, all the ratings there are decent. I don't know whether it's... I assume it's pit stops, because I think reliability affects the... you know, them actually improving the reliability on the parts you make. Yeah, I can only assume it's the pit stop rating, and his pit stop rating's 13, so that's decent. 18? Oh, well, that's rubbish. His pit stop rating's 18, and we've had... I think that's the 2nd race in a row now that Magnussen's... yeah, Magnussen's race mechanic, because I think, of course, there's an entire pit crew, but I think it's one race mechanic in their rating which determines the entire pit crew's rating. This guy, his pit stop rating is 18. It's very, very good. It's his best rating. His concentration is 17. And he's had 2 pit stop errors in a row now. Well, 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 what have we here? Jolyon Palmer, his star rating, he's a 4-star driver. And I'm sure loads of people are going to find that hilarious. But to be fair, I think Jolyon Palmer, I'm not a massive... I don't know a great deal about the lower categories, but I believe Jolyon Palmer in the lower categories, GP2, GP3, I think Palmer was relatively decent. And then ever since he's got to Formula 1, he's been dreadful, but he's a 4-star driver. He's basically the same as Sergio Perez, apparently. Well, there you go. That would explain why Palmer is doing so well. Do we know? Yeah, we know Hulkenberg's rating. Well, Hulkenberg's got a slightly higher rating, yet Palmer's been doing better. Well, he's been more notably better. He's been better in qualifying in practice, setting fastest laps. He's just done more, has Jolyon Palmer. I don't know, what is the difference in Drivers' Championship standings? Well, Hulkenberg's in 12th, and Palmer's in 18th. Okay, well, at least Palmer, he's got a Drivers' Championship position that you would sort of expect. Well, relatively speaking, although he has scored points, which is kind of a miracle for Jolyon Palmer. But anyway, yes, so that's been the 5th episode. I hope you guys have enjoyed it. In the 6th episode, the next episode, we'll be doing the South African Grand Prix, the Cape Town Grand Prix, and there's going to be ultra soft tyres. I believe for the first time in this series, we'll be able to run the ultra soft tyres. It's a medium tyre wear circuit, a low fuel burn circuit, so who knows, it might play to our strengths. I mean, to be fair, the only Grand Prix that has really gone well for us was the first Grand Prix, and that was only because all of the top drivers knocked themselves out, essentially. I'll see you guys next time in the next episode for the South African Grand Prix, where hopefully we can do better than we did at the Portuguese Grand Prix, because, well, it went absolutely dreadfully for us.